Namaste everyone, welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is kushalmehra. All right, तेल लगा लो डाबर का नाम मिटा दो बाबर का पार्ट 2 आ गया है. आभास ने बाबर के ऊपर दूसरी बुक लिख दी है और दिस वन is called Babur the Quest for Hindustan. So for those who don't remember, the first part where Aabhas had written, and I'm assuming this is the second and final part. भाई इससे ज्यादा बाबर के बारे में मत लिखना, किसी को नहीं जानना बाबर को इससे ज्यादा. So Abha's first part, I remember very clearly. It was more about Babur's personality, his traits, and his time. Where he was in his early phase, and then, uh, if I'm not mistaken, can I safely say after reading the book that this is his entire quest? That how he comes to India, how he wants to come to India, why he wants to come to India, what he does over here, and how it all culminates. Right?
Yes, that's very true.
Okay, so let us first start. Primary references for this part. What were the primary references that you referred to for this one?
So, as usual, Baburnama surely was a great source. One of the major chunk of things have been drawn from there. Apart from that, there is a work by Douglas, which is also a contemporary source. It's a second party account, as in Babur is writing Baburnama himself. Douglas text comes from the second point perspective. He's looking at everything and he's documenting. So I got a hold of that too. Apart from that, I also referred to work of Farishta. So it's not. I don't know whether to call it a primary or not because it appears around a century later. But Farishta is known to be a very top-notch Muslim chronicler, and largely people agree to what he is saying. And because it's only a gap of 100 years, and there's a lot of match with what Baburnama is saying. So just to cross-verify and to add more sources, I have referred to Farishta also this time.
So when, like, why Farishta? Just for
Yes,
those who don't know, मैं ये question उनके लिए पूछ रहा हूँ जिनको कुछ पता नहीं है.
yes. So Farishta is one of the scholars, Muslim scholar, who has documented whole Muslim reign in India beautifully. And of course, he was in the era of Shah Jahan and around that period. But what he did, he collected all the works of earlier scholar, whoever have written in the past, and he brought them together. Like for example, if I am working on the Timurid history, popularly known as Mughal. So I am going to collect all the sources. I am going to bring the narrative. I am doing it in 2025 to say 2030. But this man Farishta had done it in 17th century, and he had collected all the works which was all there for the last 1,000 years or so. And that's why Farishta becomes a very important historian. And it's said that he was very dispassionate, or rather, we can say he was just trying to be as true as possible. We don't find any filters to it because when you say when you pick Babar's case, what is being brought by Farishta, and then you check a bit of work of say Gulbadan Begum, who is writing Humayun Nama, but she has written a bit about Babar also in the initial pages. When we pick Abul Fazl has also done some work on Babur, as in Babur's, when they are explaining, he's explaining the lineage, he talks about Babur. Then I have done a cross referencing for Farishta. So we find that Farishta happens to be one very true historian of his era, and he has not exaggerated. And in fact, he has also tried to analyze the number of the soldiers. Say that in some campaign, someone is saying that this is the number of the soldiers, but Farishta is trying to analyze critically that the number which has been put, whether it's accurate or not. So once you see that there is scientific temperament in the scholar, you are very assured that the person is doing it has done a fantastic job. And I could find that in the work of Farishta. Like Farishta has spoken about the Johar of the Chanderi, like when Babar Sami comes to Chanderi, the big Johar is committed. Babar faintly talks about it, not much details come through. But Farishta has gone on to elaborate it using the Rajput sources, right? Because this time when I was referring to the Rana Sanga's era, or the stint of Rana Sanga with Babur, I also referred to the Rajput sources because I had to ensure while writing about Rana Sanga, whether the claims of whether he writing letter or true or not. So I wanted to look for more and more sources. So I am doing it around 4 centuries later, but Farishta had done it back then. He also referred to the Rajput sources and has brought a very good work, inclusive of all the texts that were available in that period.
So, you know, uh, the thoda technical question hai, and I apologize to the listener and the viewer on YouTube. Like, from a translation perspective, how do you break words down? Like, देख मैं तेरे को एग्जांपल के तौर पे समझाता हूँ कि कई बार है ना भावार्थ बहुत जरूरी होता है.
Hmm.
फॉर एग्जांपल,
Hmm. Hmm.
दिस इज सो गे
Hmm.
एंड ही इज गे. शब्द गे ही
Hmm.
है.
Hmm.
It's a very different way of saying what we are saying.
Hmm.
So how do we deal with this?
No, this is a big problem when we deal with the primary sources of those languages. And what we always need to do is see, I'll give you one example. Say, I'll because you said gay, so I'll pick the case of Babri and Babar. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when we deal with Babri and Babar, one thing becomes very clear that if you pick translations, now, Professor Dale has done a lot of work. Stephen Dale is known to be a scholar of repute when it comes to Central Asia, especially the Timurid lineage, including that of and India has done some good works on Babur. Like he's one of the most respected scholar. Now, what he has done, he has completely metaphorized the case of Babri. He says that it's a metaphor which Babur is imagining, and that's why he's calling it Babari. So, but when we look for the primary sources, and when you break down the translation, by breaking the translation, you find that Babar is writing a poem for Babri, and he's saying, "I have got maddened in love with Babri, and I've got maddened in love with Babri." Then he further says, "Apologies, just a moment."
ये बाबर आया है तेरे घर में तुझे गाली देने की. तूने मेरे को ऐसे बोला. बाबर आया है. बाबर ने घंटी मारी है. वो आया है स्वर्ग लोक से या नर्क लोक से, जिधर से भी. उसने आगे घंटी मार के बोला है कि ये तुम मेरे बारे में बुक लिखा, तुमको पाप चढ़ेगा.
So, as far as um, the case of the Babri is concerned, so in that he is writing very clearly that I have got maddened in love. So when I had come across first the translation by Annette Beveridge Sujan, so she had translated Chaktai Turkic text long back, and she is talking about Babur has got mad. Erskine, other translator earlier, he had translated the Persian manuscript. He says maddened. Now, when I also refer to the Persian manuscript, because I had the I was able to access the manuscript which is kept in our archive, and we unfortunately have the one which the Akbar had got translated. We don't have the Chaktai Turkish one because that's almost lost. So I had to refer to the Persian manuscript as well. Now, in this, the what the word is that is used is ghadab. So the ghadab is a word which clearly means being mad, and this is only applies to somebody who the person himself has gone mad. And so I'm just until unless the person has gone mad into something, the ghadab is not going to be the word which is to be used. Likewise, in fact, Erskine also translated that Babar is mad in the love, and ishq is the word used, and then he further goes on to explain that how their life is his eyes meets with Babri. Again, the translation is constant in Erskine. What I also comes through the Persian manuscript is constant, like eyes are meeting the Naina, and also we see that Beverly Sujan has also done the same thing. So I was quite sure that my path is not going wrong because I first referred to the Persian manuscript, and then I got back to NS Beveridge Sujan and then Extreme. So just to cross verify, I was completely on track, and I was ensured that what Professor Dale was doing was a mischievous work here. It's not a metaphor. He was just trying to build a case that he actually was not the gay. Like, I'm just trying to gauge the intention of the scholar. It may be the intention to show him like he was a true Islamic king, because in Islam being a gay is a kufr. So it wouldn't have been feasible at all for him to do it if he for the deen. So perhaps that was the politics which got involved.
Maybe he was scared for his life कि साले मुझे मार डालेंगे.
I don't know how and what happened, but that's the case. He metaphorized it. But in my case, it has always been I've tried to take as much literal sense as possible, because also Babur was writing a diary. He was not, so when you write diary, many times it's very literal, because you don't have time to get into metaphorization of a lot of things. Like, he has written good poems for sure, but those poems are also plain language poems. You will not see a very high class metaphor being used. Just while we are, you got to home and you just want to write something, just two lines with couplet will come out. They may not be very intense. It will just be just uh, rhyming words, and you just do a poem. You can see that kind of that level of intensity in Babur's poem. So it's very tough to imagine that Babur is just imagining a character called Babri and building a case and making whole thing around when he's already married. And that's when his dadi, grandmother, and his mother are insisting that you have to go to your wife Aisha, because you have to carry the generation forward. So it means that they are also aware that something wrong is happening. And when he is not going to the chamber of Aisha, it is obvious that there is something wrong. Right? When he talks about that he's shy walking into the chamber of the female, and those things do come up. So it becomes very clear we have enough of circumstances to verify whether the translation's emotions are going in a right line or not. Like, you give example, very rightfully, being like a gay, and you know, to be a gay are two different things at times. So and we can see this evidently in the case of Babri, and likewise in many cases, like when he's making a skull towers and talking about the kafirs. So there is obviously no metaphorization, because he's counting the numbers. He's saying that how many have been slaughtered. He's counting the numbers very clearly. And in translations, I could find a lot of problems. And in fact, this Ram Mandir fiasco also happened because of the mistranslations.
So now that अभी तुमने खुद ही अपने फटे में टांग डाली है, तो what is this राम मंदिर थिंग? मगर इसके पहले ये किसी ने क्वेश्चन पूछा, यही ले लेते हैं. सो किसी ने पूछा, वर द हॉर्सेस इन कैवलरी ऑफ बाबर सेंट्रल एशिया स्टॉक, और हाउ डिड इट फेयर इन साउथ एशिया? एनी रेफरेंस टू द स्ट्रगल ऑफ कैवलरी, एंड डिड ही प्रेस लोकल फार्मर्स एज इन्फेंट्री, हिंदू और मुस्लिम, एंड डिड ही स्पीक चागताई?
Yes, he spoke Chagtai. He knew the Persian, and he was also he knew the Arabic as well. He was a good scholarly man. He was a scholarly man of repute, and he was appreciated for this by a lot of people in and around. So he was a great guy that way. And and as far as the horses are concerned, we see the problem because he comes with the Central Asian horses, and because he's coming from the land of Samarkand. But moment he enters into Hindustan, that this transition is happening from Kabul, and by the time he has come Kabul, even his horses have changed. They are not the same what was in the Central Asia, and we do find because we are talking about the horses. There's a very interesting instance which is captured in Babur 1, that they are killing their horses uh, in deadly winters because there is no food available. The supply is completely gone, and because they're short of the horses, they have killed all of them, and there is no food. They are left with the choice whether they carry on with the horses they eat, and that's the reason why they have to cut down on one of the campaigns further into towards the Indus. So that had also happened. And what was the second part of the question? Did you?
I'll put it up for you again.
Yes.
The second part was any reference to the struggle of the cavalry, and did he press local farmers as infantry, Hindu or Muslim?
So yes, he did use the local farmers, and in fact, in the Battle of Panipat, we see a very curious case, and that curious case is of using the farmers as the human shields. And that was one major factor why he could win the battle against the Lodhis despite his number being lesser. Of course, we had the cannons and matchlocks and other things which was very new to the Lodhis. But at the same time, using the human shield, so the strategy was as such that they will have the farmers and the villagers as the human shield at one side. So till the time Lodhis come through, they will have to destroy and kill them. And from the back, from the rear side of the villages, the the Timurids or the army of Babur would be shooting the cannons and hitting the Lodhis. So they will be on the disadvantage all the time. And whatever hit is taken, these hits will be taken by the local farmers and the villagers. So we see a very strong evidence of use of the human shield back then, and it's very clearly stated by Babur that this should be our part of a strategy, and that is going to make a difference, and it did make a difference, big difference. Imagine a big mass of a village is acting like a shield, and from one side you are loading your cannons and you are shooting. So they were completely at a big advantage, and it's very unfortunate that how a lot of people in the Panipat would have innocent people who have nothing to do with the Babur or Lodhis per se, they got killed in this just because of this strategy of Babur.
Okay, now I want to talk about the most important bit in your book. Now let's give the background to everyone. When you wrote the manuscript, you had called me, and we've had multiple discussions on this subject. First of all, I want to put it on record that I'm proud of you of the fact that you had apprehensions, but we had our discussions and you went through with it. You went with the truth, which is something
Yes.
that matters. That when good scholarship is done, the truth is the only thing that should come out. Nothing else should come out. And I'm sharing this openly with everyone. While Abbas was writing the book, he had called me. We had a long conversation, and he told me कि भाई मैं जो पढ़ रहा हूँ उसके हिसाब से जो ऑर्थोडॉक्सी ने जो सत्य बोला हुआ है सत्य वो मुझे तो नहीं दिख रहा है तो मैं क्या करूं and I told him कि you right because you're not making the case for Babur nor are you making the case for Islamism. You are actually just stating कि हाँ भाई मंदिर तोड़ा गया था मगर थोड़ा डेट गड़बड़ है. That's all it is. मंदिर तोड़ा गया था इन्हीं लोगों ने तोड़ा था डेट गड़बड़ है. So having given this caveat, now narrate who broke the Ram Mandir.
So when I had no intention to do what if I put it this way, I did not know that I will write what I have written in these chapters around Ram Mandir, because I was hoping that I will find somewhere other evidence about it being destroyed by Babur, but we find no evidence whatsoever from the that era. There is not a single inscription which talks about it. We will get to the inscription, which many people would have got excited looking at Wikipedia and even Baburnama of Anand Beveridge Sujan, where she has put in appendix a translation of an inscription which she got from the magistrate of Awadh or Ayodhya, and that happens to be one of the most important source to claim that the Ram temple was demolished at the order of Babur at the hands of Mir Baqi Tashkandi, who was his general. Now, first, I must make it clear when we try to talk about, when we see that who is this character Mir Baqi Tashkandi, we find no such character called Mir Baqi Tashkandi anywhere in Baburnama. He's totally absent. He's not a general. As in, he's not a general, as in Mir Baqi. Mir Baqi is a character, but he's not a general. And Baqi Tashkandi is another character. So the two characters have been brought and merged together. And because he's not general, so he wouldn't have been taking the order as it has been narrated. Second thing, what we find is that when the case of this demolition happens, as in how the common story goes, It was demolished in when it was demolished. Now, in that period, Mir Baki was involved in a battle with Biban and Baizad, who were the two rebels of Babur. As in, they had rebelled against him, and they were stationed in Lucknow. So that time, this character Mir Baki is locking the horns with Baizad and Biban to kill them or do something to them. That was the problem. Now, what is very interesting, there are two mosques which Babur has built and which is very well recorded in Baburnama. One is the mosque of the Dholpur, and he explains very clearly that where he has built it, how it is, and after that, he talks about a mosque at Agra, and that also has been beautifully described that how it looks, where it's located. He knows exactly where he is located his mosque. He knows exactly where how it looks like. He explains them all. Now, after that, Jahangir writes in his memoirs. Jahangir comes way after, as in Babur, then Humayun, then Akbar, then Jahangir, right? There are three generations between Jahangir and Babur. And then Jahangir talks of two mosques built by Babur. One of the mosques is the one which has been built in Agra, which I just spoke about. Other mosque which he talks about is in Dholpur. Now, Jahangir is talking centuries later. He has no interest to hide that Babur destroyed Ram Bhumi because he's not Babri Action Committee in 1992 or 93. He's writing way. So he had no interest of hiding that why mosque was built in Ayodhya. Then, very interestingly, Babur gives description of even number of men who are involved in creating the mosque and the structures. Like he talks about around 660 men working regularly in his buildings in Agra, and there are around 1491 stone cutters. So he has gone to that detail to explain this whole thing. But this instance is entirely missing. Now, what we further find that the first time when the inscriptions do appear, it is in 1877 when 1877 around that period when the matter goes to the court. First inscription that exists is only Allah. Inscription only talks about Allah. So I'm talking about inscriptions first. The first time we get an inscription is which is produced in the court, it only writes Allah. We don't find anything else. It does not talk about Babur. It does not, and then it is stated in the court that this was built by Babar Mirza, but we don't know exactly more of it because in the inscription it just written Allah. Now, before that, there were a lot of travel, and I must speak also about Gulbadan Begum because Gulbadan Begum was the daughter of Babur, and she is sister of Humayun, and she is writing Humayun Nama. That means that she is writing the text exactly after Babur has departed, right? Because she is writing about Humayun. When she is writing about Humayun in Humayun Nama, she does not talk at all about Ayodhya Mosque, but she talks about the one built in Agra, and what she talks about one built in Dholpur. Again, the repetition of what we spoke about. Babur speaks about it. Later on, Jahangir speaks about it. But before that, in Humayun Nama, Gulbadan Begum also talks about it. And she also goes in similar detail as Babur had given. Now, she's also talking about that Biban and Baizad are having a tussle with Babur. She's giving that reference to. Now, further as we go ahead, we have the reference of Abul Fazl. Abul Fazl is again writing in Aine Akbari. So, Aine Akbari happens in the era of Akbar. There she is talking about the place called Ayodhya, which is very pious to the Hindus, and it's called as Ram Janmabhoomi. And in that very place, Sri Ram is celebrated in Ram Navami. So obviously, in mosque Ram, Sri Ram is not going to be celebrated. And again, Abul Fazl is not talking about a mosque being erected. There is no mention of mosque at all. And after that, while he's talking about, he speaks about Ram Avatar and everything. So there is no trace of mosque at all. And Abul Fazl text appears in 16th century when Akbar is alive. After that, Badauni comes into the picture. Now, Badauni also talks about Dholpur and Agra for Babur. Ayodhya is again missing. Badoni is a staunch Musalman. And that's why people say that often Badoni and Akbar had disagreement, because Badoni was a staunch Musalman who never accepted a lot of ideas of Akbar, because Akbar was flipping later on. He was not very religious. So he again had no interest of hiding the thing about Ayodhya. Now, as we go ahead, there is a traveler called William Finch, who visited Ayodhya in 1610, and he was a merchant, and he had come to Surat, and after that he carried on his travel to Ayodhya. In Surat, he reached in 1608. In 1610, he reached in Ayodhya. Now, it is around 80 years after the alleged description of Ram Mandir. He says that he finds a Ram temple there. And then there is a place of the Ramchandra castle. He talks about Ramchandra castle. He writes that here are also ruins of the Ramchandra castle and houses, which the Indian acknowledge for the great God, saying that he took flesh upon him to see the tamasha of the world. So he's attributing this place to be Ram Janmasthan as the ruins of the castle of Sri Ram. So again, there is no mosque is entirely missing. In 1610, mosque does not exist. And as we go ahead, then we have got the evidence of John's delete, Thomas Herbert. Thomas Herbert comes in 1634. John's delete comes in 1631. They have given detailed description of Ayodhya. Again, Ram Mandir is present there. What is missing is mosque. Mosque is entirely missing. We have come till 1634. As we further go ahead, then we have got of a Jesuit father, Tippenthaler, who visits the place, and he visits it in around 1760 to 1770, around that era, and he writes about Ayodhya, and then he talks about Sri Ram Janmabhoomi and the temple being not existing. It's a mosque which has come there. Now this is happening in 1760. We got the record from 1734 and all, and now right now I'm talking about 1767, and the mosque has got in place. And Tippenthaler gives a description that the local people allege that Aurangzeb has destroyed the Ram Mandir. Tippenthaler is talking about it for the mosque for the first time, as in the one account for the mosque comes for the first time, and he talks about it being demolished by Aurangzeb, which is in the memory of the people. Now, later on comes Buchanan. Buchanan talks about the Ram Mandir being destroyed too, and he has visited the place in the early 19th century, as in 1830s or something like that, 1810, around that period. And then he says that it seems that Aurangzeb has destroyed the place as per the local memory, but I do feel. So he writes that the destruction is very generally attributed by the Hindus to the furious zeal of Aurangzeb, to whom is imputed to overthrow of the temples in Banaras and Mathura. So the local public, who are very close to Mathura and Banaras, as in Kashi, they say that not only Kashi and Mathura, but also the temple of Ayodhya, this way Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir, has been destroyed by Aurangzeb. But what he says that he flips it entirely. Buchanan writes that what may have been the case in the two latter, I shall not take upon myself to say, but with respect to Ayodhya, the traditions seem to be very ill founded. He is blaming that people's tradition, as in what they are narrating, is perhaps ill founded, they are wrong. And then he goes on to attribute that it's most likely Babur who has done it. The local people are saying that it's done by Aurangzeb, and this man, this British, claims that it's done by Babur. He changed the narrative altogether. So what we find that temple was existing till the Aurangzeb comes into the power. Suddenly the mosque appears after Aurangzeb has come to the power. Before that, it was always temple all through. That is what we find from all the local records. Now, very interesting thing is that Buchanan did produce inscription, and he says that I had got this inscription from this is the Persian inscription which I got translated from some Maulvi. He talks about a Maulvi having translated it, and in that very inscription, a lot of things appear. And one of the very interesting and curious thing is that the lineage is being spoken about. Lineage start with Aurangzeb and ends with Taimur. Now, how can Aurangzeb appear in an inscription which is being brought in the era of Babur? That itself was a big fallacy, right? Because they're talking about the lineage. This go till Taimur starts with Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb to till Taimur. That's how they describe the lineage as. Apart from that, there is also a mishap of a date because it's around 1516 or something where the inscription speaks about that is 923 AH al Hijri calendar date. That is when Babur got an inspiration from some Sufi or Darwish back then, and he inspired him to destroy this very temple. And this meeting happens in Ayodhya itself. Babur was nowhere in Ayodhya in 923 CE, 923 AH. He was still preparing to enter into Hindustan. So we see that there was a lot of forgery in the inscriptions which was going on and on. And most likely, this forgery was being done by the Muslim side just to make a claim that this mosque was very old enough. And that's how the people got carried away. And it's unfortunate that when the work was being done from our side also, we did not focus, as in uh, the nationalistic wing or whoever wants to write for pro Ram Mandir, somehow this narrative got stronger that Babur is the man who destroyed the temple, but there are there is no evidence whatsoever. There is zero evidence to claim that it was destroyed by Babur. There are very strong evidence that it was destroyed by Akbar. Aurangzeb. And later on, we have the record of Manuki who talks about the temples which Aurangzeb is targeting are from Ayodhya, Mathura, Kashi, and some other places, Mayapur, and other places he talks about. So we have the description. In fact, in the book, I have further established that it was most likely destroyed by the cousin brother of Aurangzeb, the Fidai Khan, or if I'm not wrong, if I remember the name correctly. So we know exactly who was the destroyer based on all these sources. In fact, the date was completely missed out and messed up, and it's why I discussed with you earlier, Kushal bhai, because I was also in dual mind that whether I'm taking a right path or not, because often get it's very tough to be dispassionate. I try to be dispassionate most of the times, which you may find in my work. I often try to be that, but at times you get carried away for which are the things which are too central to your whole ideology. Like Ram Mandir has been very central to all of us. So this thing coming up and shifting the whole narrative that what it was really a challenge, and that's why I thought that it really needs a careful thought, and it needs careful work. So I have dedicated around 3 chapters around it where I have dealt with the inscription. I have dealt with how Mir Baki's name was mistranslated, how these things happen. I have gone on to explain all these things.
Now, two, three questions here when it comes to this entire story. The first is that the one thing your narration clearly establishes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ram Mandir is real and Ram Mandir was the continuing tradition for hundreds of years. Is that true or
Yes,
not?
that's very true.
So, the narrative that the Indian progressive side, progressive in quotes for those who don't know, uh, and has been that there was no Ram Mandir in the first place. This was always a masjid. So, what your research actually shows is that at a much later period, this entire trope that oh X हो गया, Y हो गया, ऐसे हो गया, वैसे हो गया is actually a bunch of rubbish. There was a continuing worshipping tradition in the Ram Mandir, and it was only at the time of Aurangzeb that the bigot that he actually not only did a number on the Ram Mandir, he did a number on Ayodhya, Kashi, Mathura, all of them, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, and I got to add just one more point. In fact, all these inscriptions which appear in that, they even got Babur's name wrong.
How?
It appears that when the inscriptions which was brought into the court in the early 20th century, in that this inscription which was submitted to the court, the Babur's name appears at The term which is used is Gadi. It's not Ghazi. And the same mistake also appears further in one more will of Babur, which again is a chapter where I deal with whether he was tolerant towards Hindus or not. In that also the wrong seal of Babur has been put there. Also the name goes as Gadi. So the people who the inscription are done by the emperors. If someone builds it, they will put the inscription and go ahead. Right? Okay, this has been. They are not going to get their name wrong for sure. Not the dates wrong, right? In fact, one of the inscription are three-line inscription, 1, 2, 3. On the first line, it gives you a date of 1523 CE. Other one gives you a date of 1528. So the same set of inscription as in first line, second line, third line. First line says 1523. Of course, I'm translating it. It's actually the AH here, and the later one is 1528. You can't have these inconsistencies when you are doing such serious works, right? It's not a school text which people are writing. He's an emperor. He wants to establish his might. He wants to put the truth as it is, or rather he wants to proclaim himself as strong as possible. He can't get his name wrong, he can't get his inscription wrong, the dates wrong, and it all looks like an absolute forgery because the first inscription only talks Allah. Then we find where the lineage itself, in the era of Babur, we are finding that Aurangzeb has been named, right? So these are some big fallacies and we should have caught on it long back, and in fact this should have been cleared, I believe in the early 2000 itself. It shouldn't have taken so long.
See, on that bit of Manucci, now I want to read what actually तुमने लिखा है इधर. So you say a contemporary gem of a literary treasure that illuminates the demolition of Ayodhya shrines is the account penned by Niccolo Manucci. This Italian voyager who set foot in India in the year AD 1656 found himself entwined in the political turmoil of the era. He championed Dara Shukho in the succession war at Samugad. Following Dara's fall, Manucci served at the court of Jaswant Singh before entering the Timurid Emperor's Aurangzeb's court, where he would remain for years. Eventually, he turned to the ancient craft of a Vaidya. His insights into the Timurid court were profound and intimate. Manucci breathed his last breath of his last in India in AD 1710, and his meticulously kept diary first surfaced as Storia the Mughal, the story of the Mughals in AD 1837, thanks to the government of Ceylon. And now I'm reading the excerpt, okay? In this realm of India, although King Aurangzeb destroyed numerous temples, there does not hereby fail to be many left at different places, both in his empire and in the territories subject to the tributary princes. All of them are thronged with worshippers, even those that are destroyed are still venerated by the Hindus and visited for the offering of alms. I repeat the last line, ladies and gentlemen. All of them are thronged with worshippers. Even those that are destroyed are still venerated by Hindus and visited for the offering of the alms. The claim for the Ram Mandir is this continuing tradition.
Yes.
The memory was never defeated. वो
Yes.
तोड़ने के बाद भी लोग जाते रहते थे कि नहीं साले इधर ही जाके पूजा करूंगा, यही है राम का घर, यही
Yes.
है. In fact, and that is why when you had told me कि भाई ये पता चल रहा है मैं क्या करूं, and I had told you the same thing at that time, this only makes the case for the Ram Mandir even stronger. It doesn't make it weaker.
Yes.
किसने तोड़ा वो कैसे मैटर करता है, तोड़ा ये मैटर करता है.
Yes.
Just because an orthodoxy believed कि बाबर ने तोड़ा और अभी हमको पता चल रहा है कि नहीं एक्चुअली बाबर तोड़ नहीं पाया, तो इसका मतलब तो हम जीते ना वो हारा.
Yes.
हम स्ट्रांग आते हैं ना, बाबर थोड़ी ना स्ट्रांग आता है, हम स्ट्रांग आते हैं कि हम उसको पिछाड़ देते थे जब भी उनकी अगर मंशा होती थी. यहाँ हो सकता है बाबर की मंशा ना हो, सानू की, हम उधर पूजा कर रहे थे. ये औरंगजेब जो घटिया इंसान था उसने तोड़ा, और उसके बाद भी हम पूजा करते थे उधर.
Hmm.
हमने औरंगजेब के बाद भी पूजा करनी बंद नहीं की. वी नेवर स्टॉप वर्शिपिंग एट द राम मंदिर डिस्पाइट औरंगजेब ब्रेकिंग इट. This is what Manucci's account proves in your book that you have reproduced.
Yes.
Which is why I wanted to read this verbatim, because this is the most clinching thing. This is 410, page number 410 of the book, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
That's the most important point. And I think इसीलिए मैंने तुझे बोला था जब जब हमारी ये बात हुई थी, मनोरा, you have to reproduce this. It doesn't matter who gets hurt. हमारे देश में तो आजकल कोई भी हर्ट हो जाता है, और फिर जस्टिस सूर्यकांत आके एक लंबी लंबी ऐसे लिखते हैं. So that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It should not matter. The truth matters, no matter who looks bad and who looks good. How long will we करेंगे? और इसके आगे भी देखने वाला है. The translator further wrote, the chief temples destroyed by King Aurangzeb within his kingdom were the following: 1. Maisa, Mayapur; 2. Mathura, Mathura; 3. Saxis, Kashi; Ayodhya, and an infinite number of others, but not to tire the reader, I do not append their names.
Yes.
उसके बाद है, Manuchi's account, etched in the annals of time, casts a stark shadow on Aurangzeb's deeds at Ayodhya. The temples that once stood as sentinels of devotion were, under Aurangzeb's command, reduced to mere echoes of their former glory. Manuchi, a contemporary chronicler with a keen eye on the empire's pulse, affirms the desecration of Ayodhya's sacred shrines by imperial decree. His words carry the weight of certainty, naming Ayodhya among the 4 hallowed places where temples were raised. अब मुझे सिर्फ एक तेरे को फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन पूछना था. What if बाबर ने तोड़ा, हमने फिर बनाया, और फिर औरंगजेब ने तोड़ा? Did you consider this possibility?
I was looking for this possibility too, but the point was that Babur could never reach nor could Mir Baki Tashkandi or the Baki Sangwal, as the other character appears. None of them ever made to Ayodhya, and on this very date. And there is, because this was a matter of pride, like how Aurangzeb took a pride in destroying the temple. So that's why the Famans also exist for. And Ayodhya, he had destroyed many other temples. So it's very probable that, or rather, it looks like almost certain that even this temple would have got his eyes, because Abul Fazl is observing that Ram Navami is being celebrated, right? And that means the temple wouldn't have risen in succession of say 60, 70 years. It is an old fort, which in fact William Flinch also talks about. So William Flinch is talking about in 1610, which is around 60, 70 years. So it has been old. It's in ruins, because of course the Timurids are quite not a people who are fond of letting you maintain your temples, as people say. So that's the reason it's impossible to believe that the temple was destroyed. We have the evidences that this temple dates to at least 11th to 12th century, if not older. And in fact, this points us to this argument also, that perhaps this is the reason why honorable court did not mention who destroyed it, but they made clear that temple was destroyed. That's our case, and that's what even we are saying, right? Temple was
और
destroyed.
याद
It
है मैंने
was,
तेरे को फोन पे भी यही बात बोली थी जब तूने मेरे को ये पूरा नरेट किया था.
yes,
याद है मैंने तेरे को ये फोन पे एग्जैक्टली ये बात बोली थी. इसके लिए कोर्ट बोल नहीं रही है किसने तोड़ा.
yes. That's why court did not make the point that who destroyed it, but the point was the temple is destroyed, and that is a very essential thing. And most important essential thing is that Hindus never lost the hope. They never lost the battle. They continued to carry the battle, and just how beautifully the Ram Mandir movement had united the people. Because I still see the clips, because I was a 4-year-old boy when 1992 thing happened, but when I look at the clips, what the people had corrected, उन सब तो हिंदू से पूछा जाता था, कौन जात हो भाई, which caste you belong to, and everyone used to say Hindu. And that was such a moment. That was such a moment which united all the Hindus, all the shades, all the reasons together. And I don't think there have been such a thrilling moment in the whole Hindu context as how we have seen so far. It was indeed a great moment, and that changed the tide largely.
Yeah, see, to me, Ram Mandir is the pivotal, quintessential moment of Indian history, which just shows that, to everyone who keeps saying that, अरे Hindus बटे हुए हैं, Hindus ये हैं, Hindus are never going to come together or do anything. The Ram Mandir is a slap on the face of everybody, because the struggle for the Ram Mandir was not just of the people in and around that area. The struggle for the Ram Mandir is, people forget, कर सेवा करने के लिए सबसे ज्यादा लोग southern India से आए थे सबसे पहली बार. It was
Yes.
the southern Indians who came for Karseva. Today, you look at the tourist footfalls in Ayodhya at the Ram Mandir, and you will realize that people from all over the country come and throng over there. In fact, but the tragedy is, are we going to be in a position to handle it? I mean, it's an infrastructural nightmare that we need to deal with. But the faith of the people in Bhagwan Sri Ram has always been there. The fight has always been there. And what these excerpts, like, I don't know, it's like 50, 60 odd pages where you deal with this in detail, if I remember correctly. I could remember.
Yes.
Like 50-60 पेज हैं जिसमें तुमने इसके ऊपर पूरा पूरा ध्यान से पूरा ब्रेकडाउन किया है. All this proves is this a struggle for Ram Mandir was eternal. We kept on struggling. And we will go on struggling, which is why I always say that Kashi Mathura baki hai. And yes, we will get Kashi Mathura also. And we have to struggle the same way we struggled for the Ram Mandir. That's the only way out in a democracy. That's the only way out in a democracy. We will have to struggle for Kashi and Mathura just like we had to struggle for Ram Mandir. And you know what the irony is? That the Ram Mandir evidence was harder to get. Kashi and Mathura is so in your face. It's so in
Yes.
your face. It's so obvious what they have done in Kashi and Mathura. And we know it's done by the same person. Now, we knew it all the time that Aurangzeb did it. But it is. So, what message would you give to the apologists of Aurangzeb?
No, it's a very one thing is very clear that had Aurangzeb seen his apologists today, perhaps they would have been penalized the worst possible way, because Aurangzeb will like to be known as a great Ghazi. He will like to be known as somebody who fights for the cause of Islam, somebody who fights for the cause of Darul Islam, somebody who wants to see Sharia thrive. So the people who say that Aurangzeb wouldn't have done it to start with, like, it's so ironical. Like, even if I bring that point, Kushal bhai, of mm, say I went to Kashi when the court hearing etc. were happening, and that is when the whole that well was opened, where it's likely said which whether they used to do the wazoo. So first they hit the thing that we don't know what it is there and what not. They said then it became a fountain, and we saw that how the layers of lies kept coming. If this not, then other lie. If not this, then unfortunate thing was that they continued to do the wazoo where they knew that where exactly the Bhagwan Shiv was sitting, right? It was literally spitting on the faith of the Hindus, and that is the most disgusting part. And still, if the apologists come and they go on to like it is, first of all, it's very unfortunate that we still have to go to the court to claim something which always belongs to the Hindus, and it has been vandalized, or at times it has been like murtis have been mutilated and the worst things done there. And when the evidences look at you, look at your face. You go to the Kashi, you go to the Mathura, they are in your face. You see that what exactly has been done. Aurangzeb deliberately broke it half so that Hindus can continually feel humiliated that this is your level, this is what you deserve. But still we have to go to the court to get it done. But still the apologists ensure that it becomes the problem keeps on adding. They don't let it remain a easy case, even though the evidences are so stark and the evidence is so clear in case of Kashi and Mathura. But I think that Hindus are which, as you rightly said, that Hindus will get it, whatsoever it may take, and it's it's the not only the heritage of Bharat. I would say that's where the soul of the Bharat lies, and no one can stop us to get back the soul.
I hope we don't have to wait 500 years like we had to in this case.
Yes, yes,
Hopefully, in the next 10 years, these matters are sorted out. I
yes,
don't understand the logic behind being an apologist for Aurangzeb. One more point. The only thing one comes out after reading this book is, ठीक है, बाबर तो जो था वो था. And before people think कि why did you not discuss anything of the about Babur and his time in India, is भाई तू बुक क्यों पढ़ेगा तू फिर, अगर मैं वो सब डिस्कस कर लूंगा, चुपचाप जाके बुक खरीद और बुक पढ़. That's my answer. You have to buy the book, read it, then you'll know what Babur did in India. The reason I discussed the Ram Mandir bit is I think it's a very fundamental bit of, and it's a cultural landmark. But I don't know what people are trying to achieve, what these historians are trying to achieve, that are trying to whitewash the record of a barbarian like Aurangzeb. I sincerely don't know what the intentions are here. I have never understood the intentions. Will never understand the intentions. To normalize, like, what is this postmodern Aurangzeb now? This is all being done to normalize Aurangzeb. Aabhas, you know it, I know it. They're just trying to normalize Aurangzeb. These are such pathetic people, and they are sick to the core, and they make me sick to my core when I listen to these pieces of rubbish trying to normalize. I think the only thing this book does is show what a jackass Aurangzeb was. The book is on Babur, but Aurangzeb comes across as the biggest jackass in this book.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, one last question. In terms of researching, I mean, you have mentioned it before also, you are working on the Akbar book also. So it's not like I'm breaking some news or anything. You have very openly said it on my podcast also. So while you're researching, कौन सी research मुश्किल है? अकबर के ऊपर research की बाबर के ऊपर? This is my last question.
I think Akbar is going to be the most challenging one because there are different opinions of all the contemporary scholars. Like Badoni is writing something else, Fazal is writing something else, right? There are even more Tariq around Akbar, which has different opinion. So to collect these opinions, because see, even if we say that these are the contemporary sources, but they also come out as opinion of that particular narrator of that period. He is observing Akbar and he's putting his words. Likewise, Apul Fazal is doing, likewise Badoni is doing, and then when you see the difference, it becomes very tough to triangulate, because when you have the sources of different era, triangulation becomes easier. You will tend to lean with the one which is older source, and but in this case, when all the sources appear at the same time, they themselves have a lot of colors, lot of grayness in all the sources. It's very challenging, and this time I am particularly looking to wrap it up as one book, because one is that the break in the book at times leaves the people with a lot of gap, and it's not a great idea. And in fact, to work on one character for all long of a stretch, this is not what I wish to do, because it will involve two level of editing. I want to do one level of editing for one character and move on, so that so it may take 2 years, 3 years, whatsoever time it may take, but most likely Akbar is going to be one volume itself, and it is more challenging, very challenging, because I have to bring those nuances, like how shrewd politician he was, as I often claim. In fact, I said it in the last podcast also when we were talking about the Mughals, that he was a very shrewd politician, unlike everyone else. And when you are dealing with such a shrewd politician, how do you differentiate that where is the religious fanaticism, where the angle of syncretism is coming? Of course, there is no syncretism. I would say that he was a very smart person, and perhaps for him, this syncretic idea for a time looked like a right tool to drive his thing, because he wanted what not, like he wanted to become a pagambar, he wanted to become a caliph. So he's actually a very interesting character. We have not seen such a character in that era anywhere.
Yeah, but यार बाबर के ऊपर तूने 2 लिखी और अकबर पे 1 लिखेगा, तो मतलब अकबर में तो बहुत ज्यादा मटेरियल है.
Material बहुत ज्यादा है, but the book will be thick. Will
मर
relatively be
गए.
very thick.
अभी सुनने वाले लोग मर गए, फिर से 1000 पेज की बुक लिखेगा ये रे बाबा. So no, but I really enjoyed. I think the second part is way more fun to read, the Babur one, than the first one, because it's more relatable to India, I guess. शायद इसके लिए वो आपके एरिया में आया ना, तो आपको ज्यादा मजा आता है पढ़ के. वो वहां पे वो बाबर बेवड़ा था, बाबर गे था, या जो भी था वो, मतलब ठीक है, बाबर जो था वो था. फर्स्ट पार्ट में हमने बाबर थे बेवड़ा को डिस्कवर किया. नेक्स्ट पार्ट में हम बाबर द कॉन्करर को डिस्कवर करते हैं और वो क्या करता है और क्या नहीं करता है. बट इट्स अ फैंटास्टिक बुक. वंस अगेन आबास, आई रियली एंजॉयड रीडिंग द बुक. आई वांट टू कांग्रेचुलेट you again. You know, as I embark on writing books, I don't know how you write so many books. You really have capacity when it comes to these things. I wish I had your capacity, and congratulations once again, and I look forward now to reading your Akbar book.
Thank you so much, Kushal bhai.
All right, guys, we'll wrap it up. Once again, in the description of the podcast, you will have Abbas's X handle. So if you have not followed him on X, go follow him on X. And also, we have the link of the book itself. It's available on Kindle and in a hard copy or वो soft copy जो भी पेपर बैक कॉपी जिसको तुम लोग क्या बोलते हो. मैं हार्ड कॉपी बोलता हूँ, मतलब पेपर मतलब हार्ड कॉपी. लोग बोलते नहीं, हार्ड बैक और पेपर बैक होता है. उसमें भी ट्विटर पे टुच्चे उसके अंदर भी टेक्निकल हो जाते हैं, जैसे पता नहीं तुमने बुक खरीद के पढ़नी थी उल्लू के पट्टे. सो गो बाय इट, click the link, buy the book. It's a wonderful read. And when you read that bit on the Ram Mandir, right, the अपनी outrage की दुकान को साइड में रख के पढ़ना. All Aabhas has done has shown is that yes, they broke the Ram Mandir. Yes, Ram Mandir was a continuing faith system, and we are continuously fighting for that thing. All it does is actually make the case. The only change is किसने तोड़ा, बस, और कुछ change नहीं हुआ उसमें. So don't outrage. Once again, the Cārvāka podcast is able to do these kinds of discussion is because some of you decent people decided to join the monthly membership program of this podcast. So I hope more of you join the monthly membership program, whether on YouTube or on Patreon. That's what keeps us running over here. So please do consider joining the membership program. If you don't want to join the membership program and want to send one-time donations, well, we have kushalmehra at ICICI. So you can send your donations to UPI, or in Canada, it's kushalmehra81@gmail.com, and you can use Interac Canada and send donations over there. If you can't do any of that, just like this video, subscribe to the Cārvāka podcast YouTube channel. If you are an audio listener, leave a rating on your audio platform. If you want to buy my book, the first book, Nastic, you can also buy that. Cārvāka podcast merchandise is there. The second book on blasphemy will be out this year, hopefully by December. Pretty much written, kitne mein abhi around 35,000, 40,000 words likh chuka. I just have to write 15,000 more words and I'll be done. I'll be finishing it off by mid-September. Then I'll send my transcript to the publisher. Then the legal vetting, because it's on blasphemy or it's on free speech. And if you have followed the great judgment and commentary on the Samay Raina case today, you will realize what a wonderful country India is. So I don't know. So the publishers might have to do a little bit of legal vetting, but I'm not going to edit anything out. I'm just putting it on record. And if anybody feels perturbed कि ये नहीं लिख सकते, ये नहीं लिख सकते, I will just self-publish my book on blasphemy. I don't care, क्योंकि मैं कुछ नहीं निकालने वाला हूँ उसमें से. मुझे जो बोलना है मैं बोलने वाला हूँ. और अगर इंडिया में मुझे जेल में डालेंगे, मैं खुशी से जेल में जाऊंगा. Anyways, guys, you take care of yourselves and buy Aabhas's book. Once again, नहीं खरीदोगे तो बाबर जीत जाएगा. Bye bye. Take care.